Sometimes you create a piece of content, a blog post, a podcast, a YouTube video, or heaven help us, an entire book, and it will bomb. And by bombing, I mean it will get far less views or sales than you think it should, and far less than other similar content that you have created. When this happens, you need to put your content creator detective hat on to determine why this happened, what the problem is, and determine if it can be rescued, and if so, how. Let's get started and see how you're going to do this. We're going to start with the why. Ask yourself the following question. Number one, is this material relevant and useful to my audience? If not, was it at least entertaining? If you can get a yes to either of these questions, proceed. Otherwise, leave it alone and move on to more productive activity. Question number two, was the audience potentially interested in this topic large enough? Sometimes an issue is so niche that only a few people are interested in it. One of the temptations many content creators face is they want to impress their audience with their deep level of knowledge about the content they create about advanced topic. That doesn't interest most of their audience. If you determine this is the case, leave it alone. It may do well with search and garner views that way over time. Bonus tip. Frustratingly, this will happen sometimes with new information that you feel your audience should know, but they just don't respond. Think of it like trying to get your 5-year-old to eat vegetables. You can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but they're not going to change their mind. So again, just leave it and hope that it will be there when they are ready to consume it. Number three, is the title appropriate? You have to decide whether your audience, both in general and for this one particular piece of content, is more likely to click on a link if they know exactly what that piece of content is about, or if that title arouses curiosity and the reader or viewer feels that they need to know what the answer is. If you're appealing to largely to a search-based content audience, then spell out what the content is. If you have a regular audience that responds well to what the trade calls curiosity gaps, then go for the curiosity title. Here's an example. A number of years ago, I wrote a book that I gave the working title, New Payment World. I know it was a lousy title, but I had some great information I wanted to share, and I figured the publisher would come up with a better one. They almost always change the working titles I provided, and for the better, I might add. I even told my editor that this was a lousy title. He said, don't worry, our marketing people will come up with something. They didn't. They were just equally as stumped as I would, and the sales of that book were abysmal. Who knew what it was about? Certainly not the target audience. If you decide the title is not appropriate, you can do several things, unless, of course, it's a book. And we're going to get into them in a little bit. Is the graphic appropriate? On YouTube, this is called a thumbnail, and in the book, it's obviously the cover. Today, most content that appears online has a graphic associated with it. It is important that this is compelling and doesn't mislead, for if it does, people will either not click or click right out again once they've started reading or viewing the content. With a book, as we said, your graphic element is the book cover. It should grab attention without looking like a tabloid. And number five, does your introduction grab attention? People will listen to the first few minutes of a podcast or a YouTube video, or read the first few lines of an article or a blog post, maybe even the introduction to a book. This is very valuable real estate. Don't waste it. You need to grab people's attention immediately. A large part of today's audience has the attention span of a gnat. Sadly, you can't do anything about a book or other printed content once it's published or content you provided a client. But in all other cases, you've got some options to change the life of your work. Let's take a look at some of them. Here are some steps you can take to rescue your content from a desert of a lack of views. Step one, do nothing. This is sometimes the right course of action, especially if it's search-based content. Let me explain. If it is content that's likely to do well over time, i.e. content that's going to be found through search, you just have to be patient sometimes, which I understand is easier said than done. But let the various algorithms do their thing and don't tinker, because you can make things work. This might happen immediately, or it could take longer. I had one YouTube video that limped along for 429 days before taking off. I kid you not. What changed? I have no idea. other than YouTube started showing it alongside one of my more popular videos, and it benefited from those referrals or suggestions. There wasn't an obvious link between the two topics, but apparently many people who watched the first more popular video were also interested in the second topic. It's like saying that people who drink coffee also like string beans. Not a connection I'd make, but luckily YouTube made it. Step 2, if you determine the title or the graphic isn't working, change one of them and see if it gets views. Don't change both, because then you won't be able to tell which had an impact. For YouTube videos, you'll be able to determine if it's helping by looking in the YouTube studio. Look at the click-through rate for the periods just before the change and after, but give it some time before making another change. For YouTube, if you're going to use their A/B testing on thumbnails, you probably need to get about 4,000 impressions. It is my personal belief that the click-through rate measure changes in graphics better than changes in title. But you may have a different opinion or even a better metric to suggest. And if so, please let us know in the comments below. For other platforms, look at the view count, which isn't as good as a click-through rate, but it's better than nothing, and it might be all that you have. Step 3, change the introduction if you can. If it's too long and rambling, cut out the superfluous parts. If you don't get to the point quickly enough, do so. Sometimes just moving one compelling sentence to the beginning does the trick. Of course, you can only do this if the product hasn't been printed like a book or you haven't given it to a client. Bonus tip, two ways to make your introductions more compelling are: 1, ask a compelling but realistic question the viewer or reader will want answered, or 2, share a compelling fact or statistics that will grab attention. Here are 2 examples. 1, would you like to double your subscriber count in 2 weeks? Stick around while we share 3 simple tips anyone can use. Example number 2, tax deductions that reduce taxes owed by 29%. Both of them, hopefully, people would be curious about and want to learn more. Step 4, reposition the piece. Take the piece down, rewrite the intro, and reuse the material. If you decided that you focused the piece incorrectly, maybe targeting the wrong audience, take it down, and when you rewrite your introduction, focus it correctly and repost it at a later date. Let me give you an example that should make the point. Some time ago, I did a piece on tips that would improve departmental productivity. It landed with a resounding thud. The silence was deafening. Very few people looked at it, and I knew that was good information that I felt my audience needed. I reviewed the piece and decided the information was good. I was a little bit rushed for time at that point, so I rewrote the introduction, focusing on cost savings rather than improving productivity, changed the title of the graphic to reflect that, and reposted it. It went on to get the average number of views that I get for a piece of content like this. I was also able to save several hours of work simply by repositioning the piece instead of creating something new from scratch. Step 5, use it in a longer piece. Once you get going, you'll find that you can combine several shorter pieces of content into one longer one. You might take numerous blog posts or articles and put them into a book, or take several short videos and compile them into a longer video. The piece that isn't resonating with your audience may simply be a piece of that longer creation that works well there, but doesn't generate enough interest on its own to be a standalone piece of content. Want more tips on making content that resonates with as wide an audience as possible and earns you as much as you can? Click on the link that has appeared on your YouTube screen and watch our most recent video to help prepare you for starting and growing your content creation business. Good luck.